So, Prince George has now been granted a ceremonial title. On the surface, it appears to be one of those charming royal moments. Does it not? The palace releases a carefully polished statement. The photographs are picture-perfect. Everyone nods in agreement because, naturally, the future king deserves such an honor. However, behind that entire production, Queen Camilla reportedly experienced a complete emotional breakdown. Here is what makes this situation genuinely compelling rather than merely sorrowful. She was not upset because she harbors any ill feelings toward Prince George. She was not bitter because she believed the child did not merit recognition. She was devastated because this particular title, this exact ceremonial honor, was the one she had quietly believed for years could eventually go to her own grandson, Freddie Parker Bowles. And the manner in which she discovered it was not happening, she learned through the official press release, the very same announcement the public received. There was no private conversation with her husband, no quiet advance notice from the palace machinery she had dedicated years to serving. She opened the announcement just like everyone else and received a message loud and clear. You may wear the crown, Camilla, but your family is still not one of us. And honestly, that is where this entire situation becomes complicated, because this was never simply about a single title or one awkward slight. This was years of strategic maneuvering, whispered hopes, unspoken promises, and two completely different visions about who genuinely belongs within this monarchy, all colliding in one brutal afternoon. Before we proceed further, if you appreciate royal deep dives such as this one, please subscribe to Crown Watch. It helps more than you realize and ensures you stay informed about every update. Let us rewind a bit, because you truly cannot understand why this affected Camilla so deeply without understanding what she had been constructing for years. Camilla did not exactly enter the royal family with a clean slate. Far from it. She entered as a woman held responsible for destroying a marriage the entire world had been observing, and reporters did not stop at labeling her the other woman. They began calling her the Homewrecker Queen, a nickname designed to reduce her entire existence to one ugly scandal. That name followed her for more than 10 years. Even after she transitioned from mistress to wife, from the woman the public despised to the woman the palace finally agreed to tolerate, that name never completely faded away. By the time she became queen consort, her marriage to Charles was no longer a matter of debate. Nobody could challenge her right to stand beside him anymore. But becoming queen did not suddenly eliminate her desire for acceptance. If anything, it simply changed what she wanted to have accepted next. Not herself this time, but her bloodline. Camilla has 2 children from her first marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez. Neither one carried a title. Neither one worked for the institution. And the palace had a very simple term for both of them: civilians. Sure, they were loved at Christmas and welcomed into family photographs, but when it came to actually being considered royal, absolutely not. And that was not something Camilla was willing to simply accept forever. To her, Tom Parker Bowles, Laura Lopez, and their children were her bloodline, her legacy, and she was not finished fighting for them. So she began building quietly, carefully, nothing dramatic enough to draw criticism. Not yet. It started with invitations. Suddenly, her family began appearing at royal events they had never been invited to before. Then came the photographs, carefully staged and carefully timed. Her grandson, Freddie Parker Bowles, started appearing more and more frequently, sitting closer to the family, getting closer to that royal frame. And people inside Camilla's own circle were not stupid. They saw exactly what she was doing. They believed she was grooming Freddie Parker Bowles into the acceptable face of her family, someone charming enough, polished enough, royal-looking enough to finally bridge that stubborn gap between her world and theirs. And honestly, she was clever about it, too. She never once marched in and demanded a title outright. No, that would have been far too obvious. She let the photograph speak. She let Freddie Parker Bowles' presence do the talking for her again and again and again until the message became almost impossible to miss. My family belongs here, too, and they can serve this monarchy, not just stand beside it. At private dinners, she brought up Freddie Parker Bowles' achievements without fail. At charity events, she made sure his name somehow came up when the right people were standing nearby. She pushed for her grandchildren's photographs to land in palace newsletters and Christmas cards. Tiny wins on their own perhaps, but she kept stacking them one on top of another year after year. Then Charles took the throne, and Camilla saw her opening. Now she pushed harder, still quietly, of course. According to a retired palace aide, there was even serious talk behind closed doors about giving Freddie Parker Bowles a minor hereditary title. Nothing huge enough to have the public screaming. Perhaps a barony, small enough to slip past without causing a storm, but big enough to do the one thing Camilla had apparently been working toward for years. It would finally force the Parker Bowles name into the official royal record for good. But here's where things turned absolutely brutal. One year during the royal family's traditional Christmas walk to church, Camilla made her boldest move yet. She arranged for Freddie Parker Bowles to stand directly behind Prince George and the rest of the next generation, right where every camera would catch him standing shoulder to shoulder with the future of the monarchy. And really, that was all she needed. One photograph like that printed everywhere, and the message would practically write itself. But a senior courtier spotted what was happening before a single shutter clicked. Freddie Parker Bowles was immediately pulled out of line and pushed all the way to the back next to household staff just seconds before the photographers started shooting. And the wildest part, Camilla watched every second of that humiliation from across the courtyard. Her own grandson had been positioned beside the future of the monarchy, then physically removed and pushed to the back like someone had suddenly remembered he did not belong there. And she could not do a thing. What was she supposed to do in the middle of a royal Christmas gathering? Cause a scene? Demand they put him back? So she said nothing. She stood there and watched it happen in front of everyone. According to the aide who witnessed it, this was about belonging. Camilla knew exactly what people still called her behind closed doors. She knew that no matter how many decades she survived inside that family, some people would always see her as the outsider queen who somehow got through the palace gates. Pulling her own bloodline into the monarchy's future was her chance to finally rewrite that story. Once her family was inside. 2, nobody could treat her like some temporary outsider ever again. But that Christmas morning exposed something Camilla still was not ready to admit. The palace had already made its decision about her family. Nobody had bothered to sit her down and say it to her face yet. They did not need to. Watching Freddie Parker Bowles get pulled out of that line said plenty. And Camilla was about to find out exactly how far the people around her own husband were willing to go to make sure her bloodline stayed out for good. And those people had a name: Prince William and Catherine. And to understand why these two held the line so firmly, you have to understand their entire philosophy about where this monarchy was heading next. To the public, Prince William and Catherine looked like the modern royal couple. Warm, relatable, easy to like. But behind palace doors, people close to them said their real plan was far more calculated than anyone realized. From the moment Prince William stepped into a senior royal role, he followed one rule and never broke it: protect the bloodline. And honestly, this was not about pride or some royal arrogance. He wanted to eliminate the confusion before it even started. Who actually counted as royal and who did not? An insider put it plainly. Prince William understood something basic. The monarchy only survives if the public sees the line as clean and direct. Blood matters. And if blood matters, then titles have to prove it. And that was exactly where the quiet war with Camilla began. Camilla wanted a blended family tree, one where her Parker Bowles grandchildren and her civilian children eventually got folded into the royal picture. Prince William and Catherine wanted the complete opposite. Only direct wins of blood gets a title. Prince William, as a future king, wanted a leaner monarchy, fewer working royals, clearer roles, and absolutely zero honors handed out just because someone happened to marry into the family. So when Camilla started floating title ideas for her grandchildren, here's where it got almost embarrassing. Prince William did not even argue with her. He went completely silent. And that silence was not hesitation. It was not caution. It was calculated. And he had very good reason for it. Years earlier, Camilla had already won a smaller victory. She managed to get Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez Gray to prominence at a state event. And what did she do the second she got that win? She reportedly leaked the details to a friendly royal reporter within weeks, spinning the whole thing publicly as proof that the family was finally embracing her children. The palace was blindsided. They had to scramble out an emergency statement just to walk the whole thing back. Prince William never forgot that mess. To him, it proved exactly what would happen if he gave Camilla even 1 inch on Freddie Parker Bowles. It would not stay private. It would be splashed across the papers within a month, dressed up as progress, and then dragged back out as ammunition for her next demand. So this time, his answer was not even a firm no. It was total silence, because even responding to her would have handed her something to grab on to. And Catherine was not just sitting somewhere quietly feeling uncomfortable about all of this either. No, she got involved directly. When the palace was choosing photos for the annual Christmas card, Catherine personally stepped in and asked for Freddie Parker Bowles to be cropped out of the final picture. Not because of who he was as a person, but because his face sitting next to Prince George, Charlotte, and Louis would have quietly suggested a status he simply did not have. She reportedly told an aide she was not about to let one single photograph undo years of careful work deciding exactly who counted as a real working royal. Then came the moment Camilla truly understood just how far she had fallen. Right after Charles's coronation, she requested a private one-on-one meeting with Prince William. Think about that. This was something she never even had to ask for with Charles, because Charles always came looking for her first. But Prince William's office scheduled her meeting 3 weeks out. And then, as if that was not humiliating enough, they quietly folded it into a group briefing packed with other senior staff instead. She never got her private audience. Not once. And that was the exact moment it hit her. Whatever special access she used to have was already gone. So for years, Camilla kept pushing. And for years, she kept getting resistance until eventually she was not even getting that anymore. She was getting nothing. A former aide said Prince William never needed to argue his case out loud. He simply let the stillness answer for him. Catherine had her own reason to stay firm, too. And again, it was not personal dislike. It was optics. In a world where every single royal move gets ripped apart online, handing formal honors to step-grandchildren would have screamed favoritism. And favoritism is exactly the kind of public relations disaster the palace did not need. So when Prince George was finally handed the ceremonial title reserved only for future kings, the very title Camilla had spent years hoping would somehow go to Freddie Parker Bowles instead, this was not just some announcement. Oh no, this was the answer. Loud, public, and impossible to twist. It told everyone exactly who the monarchy's future belonged to, the Windsors, not the Parker Bowles line. Staff said Prince William knew precisely how Camilla would react when she heard the news, and he made zero effort to soften that blow. None. He believed it was better to be brutally direct now than to keep stringing her along with false hope for another year. A source close to the family said it best. Prince William was not cool. He simply was not sentimental, especially when it came to protecting the crown. So while the world outside celebrated Prince George stepping into his new role, Camilla sat inside the royal residence in tears. And this was not only about Prince George getting the title. That was the part that really hurt. It was about her own grandson being told, without anyone having to say a single word to his face, that he never stood a chance. Prince William had made his position painfully clear. Blood over blended family, legacy over sentiment, and the monarchy's future was never going to be shared. And right in the middle of this entire mess stood Charles, trapped between the woman he loved and the son who would one day take his place. Publicly, Charles gets painted as a calm one, the steady hand, the man holding everything together after years of royal chaos. But privately, he was about to make a choice that exposed something far darker. A choice that proved Charles might wear the crown right now, but Prince William controls the future. And apparently that future has absolutely no room in it for the Parker Bowles family. Here's the thing, though. For years, Camilla leaned on Charles to help push her family forward. She never stormed into a room demanding anything outright. No, she expressed her wishes quietly. Hopes? Really? Perhaps a title for Freddie Parker Bowles one day. Some kind of formal recognition that her grandchildren actually belonged close to this family. And Charles, ever the diplomat, always had the perfect little answer. Waiting. We will find the right moment. He told her that more than once. Well, then the actual moment arrived. The real decision on whether that ceremonial title would finally go to Freddie Parker Bowles. And suddenly, Charles was standing at a brutal crossroads. Give Freddie Parker Bowles a title and risk an all-out war with Prince William, or hand it to his own heir and completely shatter his wife. In the end, Charles chose the crown because honestly, when it really comes down to it, he always does. Sources say he hesitated first, though he did not simply roll over immediately. Charles reportedly proposed a real compromise. And this was not some vague little gesture designed to make Camilla shut up, either. He suggested reviving an old dormant honorific, one last used generations ago for a distant relative who was never even in line for the throne. No land attached to it, no income, no claim to succession, nothing. Freddie Parker Bowles would simply get to carry a royal-sounding style at official events without touching the actual peerage system at all. Charles practically built the thing so Prince William could say yes without surrendering a single thing that actually mattered. Prince William said no anyway. He saw it as something that could quietly poison the image of the royal bloodline for generations if he allowed it through even once. And Charles, a man who had spent his entire reign fighting to keep this modern monarchy stable, finally caved. Here is the moment it actually happened. Charles called in his private secretary and told him to draft the announcement naming Prince George as the one receiving the ceremonial title. The same title Camilla had spent years hoping would go to Freddie Parker Bowles. Then, completely unprompted, he added one more instruction. Make sure Freddie Parker Bowles' name or any mention of an alternative title never appears anywhere in the briefing materials. Camilla was not told any of this was happening. She did not even know a draft existed. A palace insider later confirmed Charles simply did not want to fight his son. He understood that defying Prince William would mean declaring war inside his own household. Father against son, king against future king. And when the choice finally landed in front of him, Charles was not willing to go there. Now, the event itself was supposed to be small. To the public, it looked like a charming little glimpse into Prince George's future. To the palace, it was a clean media win during a rough stretch. But to Camilla, it was devastating. And here's the part that made the whole thing almost unforgivably humiliating. After decades of loyal service to this family, decades of keeping her mouth shut and playing by their rules, she got zero warning. She found out through the official press release. Yes, the exact same way everybody else did. An insider said Camilla saw Prince George's name sitting there in that announcement and simply froze on the spot. To everyone watching from outside, it looked perfectly normal. Of course Prince George got it. He is the future king. But to Camilla, that one announcement confirmed everything she had quietly feared for months. Her family would always come second. Always. That night, behind closed doors at Clarence's house, the carefully composed Camilla everyone had watched for decades finally disappeared. She broke down completely. An eyewitness said she held the printed announcement in her hands and said, "They have erased us. After everything, they have erased us." And this was not just sadness anymore. This was outrage, betrayal, a grief so deep that apparently not even the crown she had fought so hard to reach could cover it. One courtier described the mood inside the palace that evening as tense, almost surreal. You could feel it everywhere. You could hear it in the silence. The courtier said Charles reportedly tried to comfort her, and out came the soft, clearly rehearsed explanations about tradition, public expectation, royal strategy, or the usual palace language people reach when they have already made a decision and now need you to accept it. But Camilla was not having any of it. Overcome, she looked at her husband and said it straight to his face. "You let them humiliate me." And that is when the whole thing became even uglier, because suddenly this was not a betrayal from Prince William anymore. Prince William had never promised her anything. This was a betrayal from her own husband. For a woman who had stood beside Charles through decades of scrutiny, media attacks, and outright rejection from his own family, this felt like a knife coming from the one person who was supposed to protect her. She had survived all of that beside him. And when she finally needed him to stand beside her, this was what she got. She reportedly looked him dead in the eye and asked, "Did you even try?" Charles was reportedly sorry, but he was not apologetic, and there is a huge difference. He genuinely believed he had made the right call for the institution, for the crown, for history itself. Wonderful for history, perhaps. Not so wonderful for the woman sitting in front of him, completely wrecked by it. Because whatever justification he had, the emotional damage was already done. In the days after the announcement, Camilla canceled several commitments, officially blaming health concerns. But staff noticed a change in her almost immediately. Quiet, distant, ice cold. And here's one tiny detail that somehow says more than any screaming headline ever could. For years, Camilla had personally picked out Charles' tie every single morning. It was their thing, this small private ritual between the two of them. After the announcement, she stopped completely. She handed the job over to his valet instead. No explanation, no discussion. Charles reportedly asked her why just once. She did not answer him. She simply let that silence sit between them. And unusually, Charles did not push her on it, because deep down, he knew exactly what he had done. For the first time since they got married, Camilla no longer felt safe with a man who had once defied the entire world just to be with her. Sources close to the family believe this decision was going to leave a permanent scar, and not some political scar the palace could smooth over with a clever statement either. Camilla had spent decades walking a tightrope, earning respect, staying silent, serving a family that once wanted